Number 9, Lynne Pillay.
Thank you,
Order,
Mr.
I've
Speaker.
called the honourable member's colleague, Lynne Pillay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of ACC and asks, is he satisfied that the new sexual abuse clinical guidelines used in ACC's Sensitive Claims Unit are offering the best treatment possible?
The Honourable
Speaker,
Dr Nick Smith.
The new guidelines are a consequence of work initiated under the former Labor government, and the launch of the Sexual Abuse and Mental Injury Practice Guidelines was done by Steve Mahari in 2008. I have consistently refused to interfere in clinical decisions in this sensitive area, other than emphasising the importance of ACC complying with the Act and ensuring these vulnerable claimants receive the best possible clinical treatment. To ensure I am satisfied, I am this month initiating a clinical review.
Lynne Pillay.
When will the Minister admit that the new imposed ACC guidelines were not designed by Massey University, because Massey University has publicly disassociated itself from those guidelines, and that those new guidelines do not give the best treatment possible, rather they re-victimise victims of crime?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, quite the contrary. I can assure the member that ACC's clinical guidelines were based on the research report launched by Steve Mahari and done at Massey University.
Michael Woodhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister, who has he offered to consult on the membership and terms of reference for the independent clinical review of ACC's sensitive claims?
The Honourable
Mr.
Dr
Speaker.
Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, both in the House and in writing, I have offered to consult with the Labor opposition on both the personnel and the terms of reference for the clinical review. I am disappointed that Labor have refused, saying they know no import. This just shows Labor is more interested in politics than the genuine clinical care of sexual abuse victims.
Lynne Pillay. Lynne Pillay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister not understand why Labor will not participate in the sham review of the ACC pathway? Because it would be a complete waste of time and taxpayers' money, given that ACC's figures show that 18 months ago, some 300 people were approved for counselling each month, and now less than 12 people are approved in a month.
The Honourable
Speaker,
Dr Nick Smith.
I think what might differ between members of the government and the opposition is that our view is that clinical decisions should be made by clinicians, and Mr. Speaker, I am disappointed that when the opposition is offered a role in the appointment of the independent clinical review, refuse, and when I offer to consult with them about the terms of reference of the review, they refuse, and it's a bit rich for them to say it's a sham when it hasn't even started.
Supplementary question.
Thank you very much.
Lynne Pillay.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Is the Minister aware that the New Zealand Association of Psychotherapists passed a unanimous resolution at their annual conference calling for the imposed ACC sensitive claims pathway to cease and to return to a system which ensures that survivors of sexual abuse receive the support they need and deserve?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Speaker, there are a wide range, and I get different views from different clinical professionals. And the view that I have taken is that my expertise is not in this sensitive area, and that is why I have said the best way forward is an independent clinical review of those guidelines that were launched as a consequence of work including by Steve Mahari when they were in government.
The Honourable Leanne Dalzell.
Mr Speaker, is the Minister saying that the...
Apologise. There's a member. Sorry, the member was calling a point of order but is withdrawn. Point of order, the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, I think Lynne Pillay had the call prior to Leanne Dalzell.
No, order.
Contesting.
Order. The Speaker is the sole judge of who's going to be called. The Honourable Leanne Dalzell, and I apologise for that interruption.
Is the Minister saying that in fact there has been no change to the operationalisation of the guidelines since the government has been in place, the national government has been in place? And has he received any representations from the Minister of Justice about the impact that the changes in implementation have had on the work he's been doing with respect to the victims of sexual violence?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
The first point I would make is that the government, as in ministers, have had absolutely no influence on the work of the clinical guidelines, because I have taken the view quite appropriately as a minister that it's not for me to be involved in setting
Point of order, the
clinical
Honourable Leanne
guidelines.
Dalzell.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. I asked a very straight question, which was, is the Minister saying that the guidelines are being implemented exactly as they were prior to the change in government? And what the Minister is attempting to do is to talk about whether he's had any interference or not. There was nothing in my question that asked whether there was ministerial interference. I would have to assume that that would be entirely inappropriate.
The member will resume his seat right now. The member's point of order was perfectly fair up until that point. Order, I'm on my feet. The member's point of order was perfectly reasonable up until that point, questioning whether or not the Minister was in fact answering her question. The question being, had the implementation of the guidelines changed, as I understand it, from that being administered by the previous government. Now, the member wanted to raise a point of order in response to that point of order. I'll hear the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, the difficulty with the member's question is that she asserted that the government had changed the process of the guidelines, implying ministers, and I wanted to make plain to the House that assertion...
Order. Now the Minister's entering into debate. What I'd suggest the easiest way to resolve this is to ask the member to repeat her question without penalty. Keep it brief, because if she adds further phrases to it, the Minister's at liberty to pick on whatever part he chooses. The Honourable Leanne Dalzell.
Is the Minister saying that the guidelines are being implemented exactly as they were being implemented prior to the change of government, and has he received any representations from the Minister of Justice about the impact that the change in implementation has had on the work that's been done with the victims of sexual violence?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Yes, I've had a number of discussions with the Minister of Justice about this sensitive area. And with respect to the guidelines, the new ACC guidelines were based on the guidelines developed by Massey University that were launched by Steve Mahari in March 2008.
Point of order, the Honourable Leanne Dalzell.
He's done exactly the same thing again. I asked whether they were being implemented...
No. The member will resume her seat. I listened very carefully to the member's question. I warned the member about adding two parts to a question. The Minister picked up on the second part and answered it perfectly, fairly and properly, and that's as far as I can assist the member. The remedy's in members' hands when asking questions. Question or point of order, Lynne Pillay.
Speaker. Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table copy of a resolution which was passed unanimously by psychotherapists calling for a halt to the imposed ACC pathway and a return
Leave
to
is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Point of order, Lynne Pillay.
I seek leave to table my correspondence to the Honourable Nick Smith stating that Labor would not participate confidentially in an ACC review process.
Order. Leave is sought to table that document. Is order. We understand what the letter is. We don't need to hear the whole thing. Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is objection.
Point of order, Mr.
Point
Speaker.
of order, Lynne Pillay.
I seek leave to table correspondence from Massey University stating the rules for sexual abuse claims were not developed by Massey University but by ACC itself.
Order. Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is objection.
Then
order.
Learn.
Question number 10, Dr Russell Norman.